This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome along. So Champions League evening again ahead. Manchester United are in Madrid this evening. Jonathan Wilson is going to join us at 7:30 to chat about that game. On Wednesday Night Rugby, Andy Dunn will be in studio. And Dan McDonnell is with us right now. 53106 the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Dan, how you doing?
Evening, Joe. How are you?
I'm very well. Richie McCormack is in the house. Not literally, but here. Hello, Richie. In his house.
Hey, Joe. In my house, yeah, exactly. In a house. There you go.
The Bose gear on, I see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Bose gear.
Bose merchandise.
Well, indeed.
Everywhere.
Can we, just to get the ball rolling, because I'm sure there are fans wondering, Richie, give people the Manchester United team news?
Surely can, Joe. Surely can. Big night tonight, of course, for Manchester United. They made a couple of changes from the weekend in that victory over Leeds United. David De Gea starts in goal for them. It looks like they have a back four: Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Rafa Varane and Luke Shaw. In midfield then Paul Pogba and Fred, who comes into the side having started on the bench against Leeds. Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford also returning to the side in that three behind Cristiano Ronaldo up front. For Atleti, it looks like they have, well, at least according to the UEFA site, they've gone with a 4-4-2, but it seems like they could have three at the back themselves. Jan Oblak for them starts in goal. Sime Vrsaljko, Jose Jimenez, Stefan Savic and Ronaldo are their back four notionally. Marcus Llorente, Hector Herrera, Jeffrey Kondogbia and Renan Lodi are across the midfield. Angel Correa and Joao Felix are up front. Antoine Griezmann and Luis Suarez are both on the bench for the hosts at the Wanda Metropolitano.
Yeah, very interesting. So Luke Shaw left back, that's fine. Harry Maguire and Varane. Lindelof is right back. Dan, how do we feel about this?
Yeah, so it seems. I mean, I think you have to be wary of the until the manager says it. Some of those UEFA projections, as Richie knows well, they can be off the charts sometimes. It was definitely an Ireland game recently, whereas Amoba Madele was in the number 10 or something like that. You know, it's sort of, so there's just generally guesswork rather than the managers telling them what to put there. But if that is the case, there was we've seen him raid up once or twice in recent games and join attacks and be prominent, but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I think that's a three at the back with Sancho as a wing back.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me.
That's what I'm sort of thinking. Is that a possible scenario there? Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I think I might agree with Richie there. Although Lindelof, I suppose, on the right of a back three, you are still inclined and asked to get involved and sort of, if you have a degree of control in the game, you should be doing that.
Well, it will either work a treat, and Ralph Rangnick and his campaign to get the job full time will start tonight, or it's all going to come asunder.
That campaign isn't really going anywhere, is it?
I don't think so.
What would he have to do at this stage? Win the competition.
Beat Atletico 4-0 with Jadon Sancho as right wing back, working a treat.
Yeah, having some signs though. Sancho is he's getting a little bit settled.
He's back. He's starting to show. It was looking very worrying, very ominous for a few months there.
Like a couple of weeks back, you could see the first game after the break, he was really badly flagging the Middlesbrough game. Just he hadn't played very much, but definitely it is one area where he's probably, Rangnick has addressed something or got a reaction from him, and he's obviously a big fan of him from his Bundesliga experience. He seems to hold him in high regard. Shout
out to Fred in his pre-match comments. Came across very well, I would say. I like Fred enormously now after the way he talked about things. So he said their manager's Argentinian. He's Fred, obviously Brazilian, so he's noticing these things. So that means they're warriors. It doesn't really matter if they're going through a bad time at the moment. It's a match for players that have balls. Pardon my French, he said. They're the most South American team in the Champions League. And then he was talking about his own form of late. He said, it's a mixed bag. Some fans like me, others don't. Well, said Fred, which is fair enough. He said, I'm not the best player, not the most technical, but I give my blood and my life every time I'm on the pitch. As we say in Brazil, I carry the piano for the artist to play.
That's a lovely line.
Very good. Very nice. And he said he's enjoying the more box-to-box role. He's getting to get up the pitch and even scoring, more similar to the position I play internationally for Brazil. And then I thought the creme de la creme of his press conference, and this was Fred in his second language, I think trying to be polite, but going for endearing honesty, I would say. He was asked about, interim manager till the end of the season. What would you say about that kind of a situation? He described it as a little bit bad.
Did he say this in English, or is this through the UEFA translator earpiece?
A little bit bad. That's all I have written down.
Is that what he said?
A little bit bad is what's been reported.
I want to see footage of that press conference. That sometimes again you go through the UEFA translator zone.
Interim manager, a little bit bad. It is a little bit bad. Some would say it's been Catastrophic.
It's like half dead, you know. Yeah, you know, what does it even mean? But I mean, what about Simeone's pre-match comments? Did you not see them ones?
Oh.
Which is like, I mean, even bringing sort of a bit of sort of what is it like shithousery to like his pre-match press conference, saying that Manchester United are a team with no weaknesses.
They've only lost 1 in 14. Sorry, I did see these and they were so disingenuous. I said I'm not continuing.
It's an intense, dynamic team, very brave with very good forwards, very good footballers. Who try to make a huge effort to try and unite the huge talents they have in 11 players.
The opposite to what they do.
Yeah, I mean, unity wouldn't be a word that would actually like. If you were to ask to sum up the season in one word, unity would be well down the list.
Huge effort. He used the phrase "huge effort."
Well, it is sort of damn, like, you know, they're trying their best to like figure this out.
No, I don't think so. Did you give the Simeone documentary on Amazon a chance?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I started it. It was mind-numbingly dull.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, they couldn't have tried harder to make it duller. It was just such hard going.
Are you even anything if you don't have a documentary made about you on Amazon?
Potentially not.
A footballer.
It was just a bunch of talking heads saying things like over and over again. Nobody cares about football as much as Diego. Nobody works as hard as Diego. Diego stays up all night thinking about football. Over and over and over again. Oh, really bad. Like, just dull. Like, if you're going to do this thing, try and jazz it up a bit, you know?
Yeah, I'm working my way through the Schumacher one at the moment. I hadn't watched that.
Heard mixed reports.
Yeah, I think it's quite long, so I've sort of been watching it. I've like half an hour left to go. I didn't get it all through it in one sitting. Well, maybe is that a bad review in itself? But it's okay. I think the bar is set high for the Formula One showpiece, you know, and nothing will ever compare with sort of Senna or sort of the depth of that. I think one of the criticisms of the Schumacher thing is that he was, you know, in his pomp, he was such uncompromising character, like, you know, fiery, and they do go into it more than I thought. I thought the criticism was it was a little bit, it glossed over some of his sort of you know, some of the, I suppose, weaknesses in his personality, and that he was sort of, but they sort of touch on that. You know, there's reasonably sympathetic treatment, as you would expect, but it's okay. I think some of the reviews are quite harsh, but I wonder is that people wanted it to be completely warts and all, whereas I think possibly in the situation, you know, and I think obviously his wife was very much involved in the production of it. You probably understand when you know where it's going. It's probably going to be a slightly more sympathetic in its nature. But it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, that's about what I've heard.
Yeah, I think it's but Simeone doesn't sound like it's of the same ilk.
No. Now then again, I've recently started Love Is Blind 2 on Netflix. So really, who am I to judge anything right now?
I did see Love Is Blind 1. It was a lockdown. It's possibly like, I mean, other than making you question the whole point of humanity, it's grand.
Other than that, it's just fine.
Yeah, it passes the time.
Did you watch the Rooney one?
I haven't got around to it yet. No,
it's not bad.
I haven't.
It's not bad.
No.
Akin to what you're saying about Schumacher, they give more treatment and a deeper treatment to the failings than I thought.
But it's still obviously monitored. It's a monitored treatment. I think that's the thing with Schumacher. It's like you kind of want someone there contributing, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, who really didn't like him, you know, and their input. But I think the nature of it's more, well, we had our differences. Like David Coulthard is there. There is great footage, which I'd completely forgotten about, of a famous crash where Schumacher sort of crashed into the back of David Coulthard, but the suggestion was Coulthard had slowed down or had sort of, Schumacher was up against Coulthard's teammate in the title race, and like Schumacher comes back to the pits, gets out of his car and storms out and goes running down the pit lane with a camera crew following him all the way down, and you're just thinking in that drive to survive mindset, well, that would have been brilliant, and it was pure unfiltered rage, you know. And they do actually admit in the document that Schumacher could never admit that he was wrong. There was an input of someone basically saying, you know, they had this argument, and I think it was Coulthard said to him, do you ever consider the possibility you could be wrong? And Schumacher basically said no. So I mean, there is like some insights that come there, but I presume there's other people who are on the sharp end of his tongue or his outburst that mightn't have the same fond recollections.
Well, it is quite shocking how it's turned out for him, isn't it?
It's actually, I mean, it's only when you, again, and that's the sadness, the essential sadness that runs through it, because you do get a sense of the power of the personality, you know, the pure power of the personality, and there are sort of references there to sort of a couple of crashes he had on the track, and then his sort of wife references, you know, something along the lines of always thought he had this power to avoid everything, and it's obviously building up towards what we know to be the case in the present day.
Oh, horrific. So we should start the news round, which is brought to you by Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors. And Richie, we are starting with the Irish rugby press conference this afternoon. You knew Dan McDonnell was in studio, therefore you are upping the rugby.
Get me some of that beautiful rugby press conference content, please.
As Dan always says, this truly is rugby country.
National sports people's game that is rugby. Iain Henderson has tested positive for COVID-19 and he'll miss Six Nations meeting with Italy on Sunday. The Ulster second row will complete his period of isolation at home. The IRFU say that none of the rest of the squad have tested positive for the virus. Meanwhile, Captain Jonathan Sexton says he's good to go for Sunday's game at the Aviva. The out half was forced to miss the defeat away to France a fortnight ago due to a hamstring strain. Sexton praised the performance of Joey Carberry in Paris, but he admitted to our Aisling O'Reilly that he was a frustrated spectator.
I'm not the best spectator, and this game was particularly tough. I suppose it was a game I almost had in my head for the last 2 years, based on what happened there previously, and I thought that I was in a great place to go and put that to bed and put those demons to bed, and look, bad timing to pick up the small injury like I did, but look, there was some great learnings for the team in there, but it was tough. It was definitely tough to watch. Yeah.
Andy Dunn on the way after 8 o'clock. So Champions League, Richie.
Yeah, as we mentioned, 3 changes for Manchester United and their victory over Leeds on Sunday for their game away to Atletico Madrid. They have Rafa Varane, Fred, and also Marcus Rashford coming into the starting 11. Tonight's other game is at the Estadio da Luz in Lisbon and sees Benfica play host to Ajax. A huge couple of weeks for Liverpool continues tonight. They entertain Leeds, knowing a win for that game in hand means they'll be within 3 points of Premier League leaders Manchester City. Liverpool make a couple of changes from Saturday. Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of those to return. Alisson starts in goal. Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson are their back four. In midfield, the trio of Fabinho, Curtis Jones and Thiago Alcantara, with Luis Diaz alongside Mo Salah and Sadio Mane up front. Kickoff is at 7:45. 2 other games get underway in quarter of an hour's time, with Tottenham away to lowly Burnley. Nathan Collins on the bench for Burnley, with Matt Doherty among the Spurs subs yet again. And Roy Hodgson's Watford entertain his former side, Crystal Palace.
The Manchester United team news again, if you're just tuning in, Richie mentioned the 3 changes. So if we're saying that the team shape hasn't changed radically for this big Champions League evening, then we're presuming it's Victor Lindelof at right back with Varane and Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw left back, and then a midfield of Pogba and Fred with Bruno Fernandes ahead of them, and then Jadon Sancho and Rashford either side of Cristiano Ronaldo. If the team shape has changed quite dramatically, then we could be looking at a back 3 of Maguire, Varane, Lindelof with Luke Shaw, and we're guessing probably Jadon Sancho as right wing back. So we shall find out. Jonathan Wilson's going to join us at 7:30. As for Liverpool, Dan, we just have a title race again. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up this evening.
I thought that was over.
It really was over.
It definitely has been declared over several times.
I thought I'd given up. I thought, oh man, it's going to be a long 3-4 months, and now it's back.
It's just crept up on us out of nowhere. I don't know. Like it's sort of they are a momentum team, Liverpool. And when you think about it, they've overcome that. As much as there was only 2 league games, I think, really affected by the AFCON distraction. It worked out. It wasn't as big a deal as it was made out to be beforehand, really, because there was cup games in there. They when they get into the groove, they've managed to sort of add Diaz there just to strengthen the squad, and it's just sort of. Yeah, they've got a chance. You sort of feel like City have a gear that they can turn to, but sometimes, it's different. There's a little bit of pressure on them that it's maybe unexpected, and I kind of wonder that did that language about the league being over in some way seep into their sort of approach. Just a bit sloppy in the dying end of that Spurs game, and there is such an excessive focus on getting that Champions League done that they could probably do without this stress of this situation. But from the neutral perspective, you sort of fancy it.
Rich, Ulster?
Yeah, they've signed Frank Bradshaw Ryan. The towering lock is a Limerick native and will join on a one-year deal from the French Pro D2 club Nevers. The 26-year-old has spent the past 6 years in France following his departure from the Munster Academy system. Speaking of Munster, they've announced that Irish qualified hooker Chris Moore will join the province in the summer from Exeter University. They've also confirmed that Paddy Kelly, Owen O'Connor and Paddy Patterson will be promoted to the senior squad from the academy next term.
Lads, thoughts on Phil Mickelson? I think you have a Phil Mickelson story. I saw somewhere in your Newsround, Richie. So is it right that
I do, yeah. I'll bounce down to that as an intro.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, KPMG have washed their hands, essentially, of Phil Mickelson following his comments about the proposed Saudi Golf League to Alan Shipnock. Mickelson last night issued an apology and says he'll be taking time away from the game.
Yeah. You follow your golf. What are you
I do. I was listening to Alan Shipnock's podcast the other day on this subject, and it seems like this book.
Do you think Phil thought he was off the record?
Oh, I don't believe so. No. Alan Shipnock explained this in depth on his podcast, and and okay, I'm a little bit torn on this, right? Because probably from a perspective of a journalist, I would certainly ask someone, "Are we on the record?" I would, but Shipnock's perspective is that it's a biography. He rang him up. He'd requested an interview and he started talking about issues. I'm torn on it, but I sort of would maybe I might just bias this, like a journalist leaning towards the journalist versions of events on this. But like, if it's such a sort of I guess look at it from another perspective, right? It's such a massive issue, this, that what purpose was Mickelson looking to serve by ringing up and offering these opinions? Is he trying to influence that as something that would be, source attributed? It's not as if he's a 19-year-old kid here. Like, he knows how the media works. So what is he trying to gain from these comments? Like, there's a suspicion there, isn't there, that the book isn't coming out for a couple of months, and Mickelson wanted an element of, that the book itself would take some of the heat off whatever might come from him in the coming weeks, and then the journalist decided to release the information straight away. If people aren't aware, like, this is it. Like, this came out of like, Shipnock is doing a biography of Phil Mickelson that Mickelson had refused to cooperate with in terms of giving an interview for it. But then he rings you up and starts talking about all sorts of things that are going to be covered in the book. Like, what do you stand to gain from that?
Well, I think he was trying to almost spin it and give background and show that, look, I'm a smart dude. Yeah. I'm playing the Saudis here as much as I am the PGA Tour. He is the smartest guy in the room complex. Phil Mickelson likes people to think that way about him. So I think he was given background and given his perspective this is background for your book. If you want to know my motivation here, that's what it is. And I think there is no chance in hell that Phil Mickelson on the record refers to the Saudis as scary mother effers. I think there's no chance he refers to the torture of Khashoggi in such casual fashion, or the murder of gay people in such casual fashion. I think he was free-flowing. This is just us talking. I'd say Mickelson has had a career of talking to golf journalists and probably never said this is off the record, but it was just implied.
I don't know, yeah.
And so I think Shipnock, I think he heard it and he was like, well, this is absolutely electric. Phil still hasn't officially said we're off the record. I'm not going to ask him if we're on the record, and I'm going to hang up the phone. And he never said it, so I think there's a degree of Mickelson incredibly naive, but I also think there's some gotcha vibes off this as well.
I do see your point. I do sort of see where you're coming at. Like, I don't know.
Now, it doesn't change the fact, by the way.
He's also not 19 either, though.
No, it doesn't. And let's not turn this into a journalism symposium. It doesn't change the fact that Mickelson's views are grotesque. That's the bottom line. Okay, they're publicly out there now, but this is how he was talking behind the scenes and how you suspected it was behind the scenes, and he's been caught rotten. So that's the fundamental point. But I think I'd say he was fairly surprised to see them laid bare this week.
Okay, yeah. No, I suppose the bottom line intention of the call was to weaken the damage to his reputation arising from his role, what it may be in this. I mean, the whole story is fascinating, because what about all these other golfers who'd signed up to this Saudi Golf League, who now see Phil pull out, Bryson is out there, Dustin Johnson is done with it, and these lads have maybe like done deals or signed into it, and it's like, There's a couple of names been thrown around, isn't there?
Do love the thought of come watch the Saudi Tour inaugural event where Lee Westwood takes on Ian Poulter in the final pairing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, Rory's been so impressive on it, incredibly impressive in terms of how he's dealt with it. And people can talk about, well, he's in the past, he's done this and he's done that. He played golf for Trump or whatever. But, like, he's been to the front on this and very forceful. But it's a broader issue, isn't it? Like, I think Johnny might have mentioned this. Like, there's a Saudi Cup race on this weekend where, like, there's Irish runners in that. It's completely slipped under the radar. That there's a focus on Saudi Arabia around football, their involvement in football, and then the golf league thing. But like, they have this big racing event at the weekend, a lot of money involved, a lot of people flying out there and stuff. They're sort of just keep their head down.
I thought, like, the most interesting part of the Mickelson press statement is at the end, where he is saying that the past 10 years I have felt the pressure and stress slowly affecting me at a deeper level. I know I haven't been at my best and I desperately need some time away to prioritise the ones I love and work on being the man I want to be. I think there's a bit going on in Mickelson's world. Like, that could point to any number of things.
Yeah.
Pat Perez, his fellow golfer, was speaking a few days before this all blew up, and he just said there's a lot of stress in Phil's life right now. So there's stuff going on there.
Well, he's had, I mean, there's obviously the sort of financial issues or speculation around sort of stuff at various times, and I thought it was fascinating about Mickelson that he did manage to win the PGA last year, and didn't he get into that zone that week where, like, around press and everything, he just totally got into this. Yeah. He found some sort of sense of zen or whatever that managed to get him through those 4 days.
Meditating before he shot.
It was extraordinary, and that would actually point to, like, an incredible confidence in yourself to be able to almost perform that change, to sort of throw himself into that moment and mindset at this stage of his career, at a time when the elder golf players maybe speak about losing their confidence or losing their bottle. He went the other way. But yeah, there's clearly complexities in the character there, and that's why he probably does make for a fascinating biography. I mean, it is Phil who threw Tom Watson under the bus that time in the press conference. He doesn't necessarily go with conventional way of doing things, and that was very much on the record. You see, I'm going to just a counterpoint. I mean, Phil sometimes, he lets himself go when he's in a media situation as well too. He doesn't have the off switch.
Well, the sense was, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the general sense was it was let it be known that it'd be worth asking Phil for his thoughts on Tom Watson. So all that was at play as well there. Anyway, we digress. So Rich, do you want to bring us another rugby story, perchance?
Yeah, absolutely. Leva Fifita is going to be escaping a ban despite his red card in last week's win over the Scarlets. The Connacht Lock was shown 2 second-half yellow cards and faced a disciplinary panel today. However, they deemed Fifita's sending off was sufficient punishment for his offences. Kelly Harrington and Aoife O'Rourke are both guaranteed at least bronze medals at the Strandia International Boxing Tournament in Sofia. Olympic champion Harrington beat Kazakhstan's Aidana Zapenkova to progress to the lightweight last 4, while O'Rourke registered a unanimous win over Davina Michel in the middleweight division, but Michaela Walsh was beaten by the Russian featherweight today, Lyudmila Vorontsova. Going over to tennis, and the ATP Tour say they've contacted a third party to help with their investigation into the abuse allegations facing Alexander Zverev. Earlier this month, Zverev's ex-girlfriend Olga Sharipova said she'd not been contacted by the tour, despite them claiming in October that an investigation was underway. The ATP update comes as Zverev was disqualified from the Mexico Open, having repeatedly struck the umpire's chair with his racket. It follows a doubles match victory over Lloyd Grasspool and partner Harry Heliovara. The German's been told by tournament organisers that they play no further part due to unsportsmanlike conduct. Okay.
And Derry City?
Yeah, Derry City chairperson Philip O'Doherty says a contract extension for their manager Rory Higgins shows the club is fully behind the team. Higgins has agreed a new deal until the end of 2025, as has defender Ronan Boyce. The Candy Stripes began their SSE Airtricity Premier League division season with a 2-0 draw with Dundalk last Friday and have a big one on the horizon this weekend.
We might chat about that on the football show down in the League of Ireland. Generally, we are out of time. Richie, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Nice, lads.
Cheers.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Well, we're on a roll. We've had 6 winners in a row. Donna in Dublin, the latest lucky recipient. She answered Barry's call today, walked away with €8,000, and we've given away over 170,000 this month.